So now we're at the final confrontation where the aliens are holed up in this oil rig. It's anyone's guess how Jim got this information exactly, but maybe he's just that good. We're on the outer layer of the oil rig right now, not inside of it, and in order to activate the elevator we need to press 4 buttons. But we don't exactly have to go looking because there are only 4 platforms up here and each of them has its own glowing red marker to tell us where the button is. There's one. We don't even have to actually press it, just walk up to it. The outer area of the oil rig is also surprisingly sparse on enemies. I mean, there's a few, but nothing compared to what we've seen earlier in the game, and most of them aren't even formidable. There unfortunately isn't some big explosive finale that ties everything together. I mean, there are a lot of big explosions near the end, but they don't tie the game mechanics together. Though I do want to praise this particular area for its atmosphere. It seems to have a lot of cute detail, and I like the rusty look, especially since it's raining and storming. It fits really well. Alright, that's the elevator activated, so let's go kill some aliens. I definitely would have figured, though, that this place would be better guarded. So, there's not much to talk about, especially out here in the outer rig. And normally, this is where I would talk about Toka. But instead of their beat-em-ups this time, we're going to talk about the other games they've made. They haven't really developed any notable titles. I mean, I'm not saying that to be mean, but in the sense that almost nobody has noticed their existence. The closest thing they ever made to a mainstream title was a PS1 racing game called Burning Road. It was noted for its heavy similarities to Daytona. A lot of reviewers even called it Dayclona humorously. But aside from the general jabs at its, well, borrowing of mechanics from other video games, it seemed to be generally well received, and enough people played it that it hasn't completely fallen off the radar. It was about level with Vanishing Point in terms of popularity for racing games, which, that's not much, but it's a hell of a lot more than Hidden Invasion or any of their other games ever got. They also developed a snowboarding game for the PS1 called Extreme Snowbreak, but that one was beyond lost in the vast swath of extreme sports games that came out around the time. And it, sadly, wasn't particularly remarkable in any fashion either. They did release one other PS2 game, which I was surprised about, besides Hidden Invasion, and it was Sky Surfer. Sky Surfer is a game about, well, skydiving and doing tricks while you fall to the ground. Even though the basic gameplay seems fine, it has to have the worst presentation of any of their titles, and, well, it was released in Japan for some reason, and I can even put the Japanese trailer in the description for you. But that's about it for Toka, which is depressing, because they really seem like such passionate people. They even mentioned during their development cycles going to arcades over and over, and sometimes trying to bring cameras to record scenes from the games to help them with their ideas during development. They just seem like really excited about the whole thing. And the fact that none of their games even made the smallest amount of headway into the mainstream media is, well, kinda soul-crushing. But at the same time, it's not exactly hard to understand, is it? After all, no matter how passionate you are and how much you love what you're doing, you still have to make a good product that, you know, is being sold to people. And the average person wouldn't want anything... Oh, hey, the lift's here. So right after the loading screen, we are immediately assaulted in a very small room by many people. And this may be the hardest part of the level, honestly, aside from the boss. But it is a nice change of pace compared to how little opposition we've been facing so far, I think. And as always, just use your kicks to your advantage, you know? And also try your best to see what the hell is going on. Because in spite of my best efforts, sometimes I can't tell when I'm hitting something. But the rest of the facility is much better lit than this. Well, reasonably better lit. I wouldn't say much. Worth noting in particular about this level is that the enemies seem to have the same moveset as you do. I'm not sure whether that makes them any harder, but I guess that's a neat touch. And up here we'll get to see an enemy type that we already saw, but I didn't talk about. It's those little bug creatures that tried to attack us back in one of the very first cutscenes. You can stomp on them or you can shoot them, but shooting them is much easier. They tend to move out of your way before your hit actually connects when you attempt to stomp them. I have yet to actually have one of them hit me, so I have no idea how much it hurts, and I want to compliment that this room is so well lit compared to everything else so far. You know, at first I had wondered why the arrow. Not that I'm complaining, because the arrow can be useful for finding out where you're supposed to go. But I was curious, since they were so inspired by old arcade games, why the arrow? And then I realized the arrow was probably meant to represent those go this way arrows that pop up telling you to go to the right when you stand still for too long. You know, the ones that appear in certain beat-em-ups, and they seem to be used more for style than anything else, but here it has a much more direct purpose, and it's way more omnipresent. That's my favorite of three theories. The more realistic theory is that they just added it for the player's convenience because they realize that it's hard to see anything. And the third theory is just that this is a really weird, crazy Taxi clone, and I've been playing it entirely wrong. It's not like there are that many videos on the internet, and the instruction manual doesn't mention there being a power slide function, but that doesn't mean it's not there. I'm sure this is fairly obvious to everyone watching right now, but I can't fucking see anything. Maybe I just need to find the headlights button. I think it was around this point that I was worried I was stuck in purgatory with infinitely spawning enemies and I was going to be here for the rest of my life in some kind of Silent Hill-esque horror. But then I realized I hadn't done anything wrong. There's no reason for me to be in Silent Hill, that's just silly. It's just plain silly. And I think we're about to enter my favorite room in the whole game. Note, I didn't say the best room, just my favorite. For some reason, I really like the layout of this room. I couldn't explain why. I've tried to think of why. I can't tell you. I just really like the way this room looks. There's an elevator right ahead. I never would have guessed. Alright, so down this elevator there's a pit, and down that pit is the Alien Queen. So we're in arm's length of the end of the game, and nothing even remotely remarkable has happened, not just in this level, but the game as a whole. I kinda wish they could have done more, because I don't doubt they wanted to. But maybe that's why I'm playing this, because I wanted to see something that wasn't there. Maybe the only reason this game exists was to break my illusion that passion always got creative results. Oh hey, we gotta continue. We haven't used a continue yet, but we will, and I'll cut that death out, so that way, you don't have to waste your time watching me punch the same enemies over and over. Alright, into the rabbit hole. Alright everyone, welcome to the final boss fight against the Alien Queen. And we don't defeat her with punching, unlike everybody else. We don't even defeat her with guns. We use grenades. And we've never used grenades this entire playthrough because they're useless for everything but this boss fight. But grenades are the only way to hurt the Alien Queen. That's why the bad guys drop them when they die. The Alien Queen only has one attack, and it's spitting fire. In order to avoid getting hit by the fire, you need to hug the wall. If you get anywhere near the fire, it will catch you and you'll be stun-locked for a bit. It only takes, like, 2 hits from the fire to go down completely. And I mean 2 separate occasions, not just 2 hits. The fire hits multiple times. The Queen doesn't even take that many grenades to go down, and the only really difficult thing about the fight, once you learn how to avoid the fire, is dealing with all the aliens that gang up on you. But you can mostly jump over them if you hug the wall. So yeah, this isn't a bad boss fight by any means, and it's the one that's most likely to be figured out by an average person, I feel. But it wasn't finale material, and it doesn't feel like anything that came before it. Usually final bosses are a punctuation to the game. This one just kind of feels like it came out of nowhere. Well, that it came out of nowhere design-wise. It didn't come out of nowhere narratively, obviously. The whole narrative was building up to this, but the game design wasn't, and that's the important part, especially in a game where the narrative is, not the focus.
Mission accomplished. Those creatures weren't ready to return to the surface. The contaminated humans returned to normal, and the remaining aliens couldn't survive without their queen. But we still don't know where they came from, or who created them. Jim was decorated, the president returned to his headquarters, and I finally got my well-deserved holidays, paid for by the world government. But this time, my boss wouldn't be able to contact me at a crucial moment.
And that's the whole game. And we talked about all of Toka's library. It's a little sad that they weren't able to make a truly remarkable open 3D beat-em-up. Legend, the remake of Legend was pretty good, but that wasn't really open 3D. But I guess you can't have everything.